Hi, I'm Bran, and I love Hallmark movies.
I'm Dan, and I despise Hallmark movies.
I'm Pascale, and I am in Hallmark movies.
And this is the Deck the Hallmark podcast.
Deck the Hallmark, it's his podcast.
Brandon and friends host this podcast.
We hope you like this jolly podcast.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
It's an exciting day.
It's a big day, Bran. It's a big day.
Big day.
It's a big day.
Big day.
We get requested a lot of people to come on this show.
We do.
Like, they're all just champing at the bit to come on the show, but we get requested a lot of people. One person that we get requested, not just during When Calls the Heart season, but every time she makes a movie.
Yeah.
Pascale Hutton, and she's here. She's
right
here
now.
today.
Wow. Pascale, welcome to Deck the Hallmark.
Thank you. You finally wore me down.
That's right. Yeah, it was years of return letters.
Yes.
We write handwritten letters.
People don't know that.
And
it's
you
actually a labor of
you have
love.
a middle finger stamp. You just stamped on them and you just send them right back. So thanks.
Which
Thank
is
you.
fair.
This is persistence pays off here is what it is.
You know what? My stamp just wore out at me, so here we are.
Well, yeah, and you're from Canada. It would be impolite to not respond. So instead you just did the show. That's basically what happened. Great. Well, however it works out, great, fine by me.
We're happy to be here regardless. Yeah. Pascale, we always like to start at the beginning, like
not of time. What are your thoughts on the
creation?
Big Bang versus?
Do you have a creation theory?
This is intelligent design.
And after you give us that answer, tell us about your childhood, where you were born, what you were into as a kid, and kind of when the first time you thought acting seems like fun.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to skip the beginning of time thing. Okay. That feels like that's going to take up the whole podcast.
It's a gotcha question. Right, really good job. That was a gotcha question. You skipped it.
So I grew up I was born in Creston, BC, which is a small town in Canada, and grew up there, like born, raised there. And my parents were hippies. And it was like a lot of free time, free space, like let your imagination run wild. And so I feel like if I really think about where it started, that's probably where it started. I had a very vivid and avid imagination and imaginary world. And I was the youngest too. And so my sisters were quite a bit older. Like one was 9 years older than me. One was 4 years older than me. So they were off and out of the house and in school. And I felt jealous that they would come home from school and they'd have so many stories of what had happened. And so I would just make up my day. Like I would have my own adventures and then I would tell everybody, oh, this is what I did in my imaginary school and with my imaginary friends. And that's kind of where it started. But my mom was also really, theatrical, and so she didn't work for the first 8 or 9 years of my life, but then when she was a teacher, and when she went back to work she was a drama teacher, and so she was just always putting on plays. She would gather all the kids in the neighborhood and we'd put on a circus, or she would like write a play and we'd put it on for Christmas or on the weekend. Like it was just always integrated into my childhood and just how we worked as a family. And so the idea of performance just was really natural. But I grew up in a small town. Like the idea that this was a profession that people even had, it honestly just didn't even occur to me. It was so out of my realm. Like it just didn't even happen. And then it wasn't until I got to high school and then a new drama teacher moved into town, and she was like, I think you should do it. Like, I think you should go for it for real. And then that's when I started thinking about it. And I went to university and studied acting. I did a conservatory program.
Nice.
And again, it was all theater based. And so I hadn't thought to do any film and TV. Again, that was just even one step further outside. And so then when I graduated from university, an agent saw me perform and she wanted to represent me. And she just started sending me out for little things, and I started booking things. And then I ended up, finding my way to Vancouver and working more and more in film and TV to the point where it kind of just took over.
Wow.
Instead of theater.
So many things so many questions, but I love, it's a great answer. So you had a very free flowing creative childhood where pretty much you could do what you wanted. And I had a pretty fairly conservative childhood. Whereas like when I got to college, I immediately was like, what are all these R-rated movies I was missing out on growing up? Did you leave your home and go to university and just crave structure? Or were you just always just like a go with the flow, like whatever's fine, and that really served you and you never really changed course there?
I think in my core, I am a more structured person, but I because my whole foundation was not very structured, like just so much free space, free time, that I think it kind of changed. I mean, obviously I must have something that I like about that, because I did end up choosing to become an actor, which like no structure in your life almost. And so I feel like there's something about me that must feel familiar and must feel comfortable, even though I think it's not really who I am. I think like I try and put structure in, but it just doesn't ever. I've made some pretty big life choices that go against that.
Okay, fair. I like that.
As a parent, do you find yourself doing what your parents did to you and just being like, just do the thing? Or do you find yourself being
make up school? You don't have to go, just pretend it.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, I live in the city, and so there's a certain element of structure that a city imposes, I think. Yeah. But I would say I'm pretty free flowing with my parenting. Like one of my main goals was wanting my kids to be able to independent play. And so now my kids are quite independent. They always have been. And right from like really, really little, they would be like, I'm going to have some alone time. Can you just like leave me? I'm doing my own thing. And I always was like, amazing. I'd back right off. Whereas I think like some parents are like, oh, but I want to get involved. Like I want to do it. And I was like, the second they would give me the go ahead of like, I'm good, I'd be like, amazing. Or if they were playing with something and they were engaged, I just step away so that they could I just love the idea of losing yourself in whatever your form of play is. And I think that that's amazing. And so I like that for my kids. Yeah, for sure.
I love that. I love that a lot. As somebody who has 2 kids now, I think when you first.
I'm sorry, this is.
Oh, hey, it's a puppy. So introduce the puppy by all means.
This it's actually not even my dog. It's my friend's dog. But she's such a lover and a kisser.
Very excited to see you. Wow.
Sweet
normally
puppy.
She just lays at my feet, but today she's like decided.
That's right.
She must like you guys. She's like, let me get her.
That's right. Yeah, we have that effect for sure. There she goes.
Look at that.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Yeah,
You're
don't
fine.
worry about it. Not a bit. So you take off on this acting journey. I clearly your parents are going to be supportive. It sounds like that was the home you grew up in. At what point did it go from I booked a gig, I still got a bartender, wait tables, or rely on my parents, or whatever you did for money? At what point did it go from that to this is it? Like this is was there a specific gig or moment in your life where you were like, this is it, I make a living acting, like I am an actor?
I think it was a bit of a leap of faith. I think I was waitressing when I first graduated. When I first graduated from university, I ended up getting a few theater gigs and film gigs that kind of patched together something for the first year. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this. Like it's happening. And then I didn't save up anything for my taxes that year. And I was like, oh no, like what? I just hadn't occurred to me that in Canada, they don't take it off right away.
That's right.
And so I hadn't saved anything. So I was, okay, I need to get a job. So I was waitressing for a very short time. And then I just was like, I had managed to squirrel away enough money through waitressing and a few, like a day player role here, or maybe like a couple days on this. I patched together enough money that I was like, I'm just taking a leap of faith. And I'm quitting the job and I'm going to go for it. And then I went down to LA with this little savings and for pilot season, back when they used to do pilot season. And I ended up booking a pilot and made like a big amount of money. Well, for me at the time, it felt like a huge amount of money. And I was like, oh, I've made it. It's happening. And then I got fired. Like,
what?
Well, I did the pilot. The pilot got picked up and they did not pick up my contract.
Oh no.
So yeah. So I was devastated. But literally like a month later, another TV series that had shot a pilot and was picked up to series, they had a girl that they didn't pick up her contract and they cast me in that role. So it was like I got dropped from a show and then I got picked up by a show that was dealing with the exact same situation. And it was from that moment, I had enough episodes with that show that like, I think we did 10 episodes or something. And then the show didn't go beyond that. But after doing 10 episodes, I was like, I basically had enough money to maneuver myself and
so
I was good.
Do you mind telling me the show that got picked up? Did it become something that then did not renew your contract? Did that show become something?
The one that they didn't pick up my contract for?
Do you remember that?
It never aired. It never aired. Yeah, it never aired. It was called The Singles Table, but it was some good people in it. Like John Cho?
Yes.
So he was in it. And then do you know Ray Seahorn?
She's Better Call Saul. She's amazing.
Yeah. So she was in it as well. And then I was in it. It was almost like Friends had just ended. And then I think every network was clamoring to put forward a half-hour Friends, basically. And this was, I think it was for NBC, and I think they put this was the one that they were trying to put forward, and then they didn't end up picking.
Well, I think we know I didn't.
Yeah, serves them right.
That's what pretty clear.
Yeah, drop me, right?
Yes.
So then
of course.
It's down.
Pretty clear. Was the transition from stage to screen, was that a hard transition? How did you kind of prepare yourself when you finally end up moving to LA? Did you do anything to kind of prepare for, hey, this is how you act in front of a screen versus on stage? Or is that just something you kind of figure out as you go?
I mean, a lot of it is you figure it out as you go. But what I will say, the theater program that I did, there were a few of us, there was a handful of us that all moved from where we did the theater program to Vancouver. And we hadn't known each other. We were all in different years of the theater program, but we all then moved here. And then we had this connection of we had all gone through this same academy, whatever, conservatory. So we ended up connecting in Vancouver, and we decided we were like, well, we're all here and we're all trying to get work, like trying to get auditions and trying to get work. So we would meet every Sunday night, and we would bring in, it started with, we would bring in our auditions, and then we would bring in scenes that we were just interested in doing that we had found from film and TV. And then it just kept on evolving. We were like, oh, let's bring in like some of the best scenes from films that we've ever seen. And then it was like, let's start writing our own scenes and do those. And we would film them. And then so we would all bring a scene, we'd all film it. And then kind of audition style where like the camera's just on you, basically like this shot that you've got right now. And then at the end of it, at the end of the night, we would sit down and we would watch it all. And we would then I mean, now when I'm saying it sounds terrible, but we would kind of like give constructive criticism. And yeah, I mean, it sounds sort of like everybody watches you and judges you while you sit there. But I think because we all came from the same school, we all had the same language around acting. And so it did feel very constructive. And it was like, some of it was really practical. Like, so when like you're moving your face like this, if you're talking to two people in a scene, it just looks crazy. Like you got to put your two people here and here. So you're just going like this. Right. And for an audition, like, you know what I mean? Little things like that we were figuring out. And specifically, we're figuring it out for booking the audition. I mean, that's the first hoop you got to jump through, is you got to get the job. So we were really trying to focus in on how do we audition effectively for film and TV.
This may be a little bit before that, but you did do what I'm starting to call the Canadian circuit of TV shows that are really big here in the United States. Smallville, Psych, Supernatural, Dead Zone, like all those film up there, and most actors we have on from Canada usually pop into those shows early on in their career. Is there, I've seen, I think we all have one of those that we love. But is there one that sticks out to you? You're on all those sets. Everybody's doing their best. Obviously, I'm not asking you to talk bad about anybody, but is there one that sticks out to you as being a memorable experience?
I did really love working on Smallville. First off, I got to play somebody from Krypton, and so
Awesome.
I had superpowers. So that was really fun. I'd never done that before, and there was like a whole I think I was appearing, my character came in season 7, and so it was a real well-oiled machine by the time I got on. And so they had all these tricks of how to do like the really fast running or the really fun things like that. And a lot of my stuff was with Superman, Tom Welling. And so he and I got along really well. It was one of those shows, like a CW show that the hours were long, like long days. And so there was one day where it was a really long day, and I went back to my trailer and I was actually taking a little nap. And then Tom sent, this doesn't really happen so much anymore, but at that era on film sets after lunch, this is so silly. It's really silly, but they would bring around like a candy and chocolate tray for people. Yeah, I know, it's so crazy. So budget cuts. Those don't happen so much.
This sounds like something from like old Hollywood 1940s. Pascale, you look great.
I know. No martinis, but they did bring around the candy and chocolate tray. And so I was sleeping. I missed it. So Tom came to my trailer and he brought me a score bar, and I was so groggy. I got the score bar and without thinking, I just like ate the entire score bar in like 3 bites. And then I woke up and I thought, what just happened? Because I think I then went straight back to sleep. I was like, did I just eat a whole scoreboard like while I was napping? What happened? But that was a fun set. I liked
Tom
it.
Welling, the lead of Smallville, just bringing
Pascale's
around
gonna want this.
The chocolate tray.
He's gonna want this.
That's this guy.
I know we just got done with the strike, and we don't need to do another one. But if there is one in the future, bring back chocolate. I think that
chocolate tray. Yes.
I think that should at least be on the list.
We don't.
Like I know we're fighting for a lot of
SAG-AFTRA to strike over chocolate. But if you're doing an AI thing,
if it comes up,
just tack that right on there at the end. Chocolate trays. I think that should be.
Yeah, chocolate trays come back.
Yes.
It was a real morale boost. People really got boosted up by this chocolate tray.
I mean, come on. This is the first I've heard of it, but this sounds wonderful.
We actually are going to start that in the office.
Chocolate tray in the office for all.
We already do Pop-Tart o'clock. We might as well do chocolate.
Right.
We might as well do chocolate. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I do have another question, Pascale, and I know that you think you're here to talk to us about Hallmark and When Calls the Heart, but we did bring you here under false pretenses. You were in a little movie called Cats and Dogs: Revenge of Kitty Galore, and in this essay, I would love to hear all about it. At what point in this movie do you? We had Kimberly Sustad on, and she was in one of the Air Bud movies, and you're on all
Air
of
Buddies
these Air Buddies.
Yeah.
The little pups. Yeah. You're in all these movies where you're supposed to be procedural, taken seriously, or these TV shows, and then you're on a movie. It's a Cats and Dogs sequel. It's going to the theaters. It's going to be in 3D. Do you just was there a moment where you're just looking around going, what is happening right now?
Did you watch it?
No.
No, okay. I haven't watched it either, but my part was so removed from so much of the movie that I think I'm only in like 2 scenes in the whole movie, and it was with the main guy. I'm just blanking on his name right now. But anyway,
or cat. It's Chris O'Donnell. Chris O'Donnell is who we're looking for.
Chris O'Donnell. And so it just sort of seemed like any other acting job. We were just at a barbecue, and I was playing his wife. And so I didn't get to partake in all the animal shenanigans.
I hate that.
And so I feel like there's a real big component of that movie that I don't know what that
Man,
experience
I hate
was
that.
like.
That stings.
I mean, you missed out on the whole Galore.
All of it. And I just found out that Kitty Galore is played by Bette Midler, guys. Bette Midler voices Kitty Galore. So,
you know what? So my husband just recently pulled this up because I don't know why it came up in conversation. He goes, "You didn't ever even watch that movie?" I said, "No, I didn't." And he pulled it up and he was like, "Did you know all these famous people were in it? It's quite the cast, actually. Like, it's not just Bette Midler. It goes on and on. Like, it was quite
Jackie Brayer, James Marsden, Nick Nolte, Christina Applegate, Cat Williams, Neil Patrick Harris, Sean Hayes, Wallace Shawn, Roger Moore,
Out of
James
curiosity,
Bond. Holy cow.
What does Cat Williams do? Cat or dog?
He's got to be Cat, you would think.
Cat
But, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put him in a box.
I think we should do a watch along with Pascale. Cats and Dogs: The Revenge of Kitty Galore. I think it's the only
Cats and Dogs watch along with Pascale Hutton.
Yeah. I love this idea.
This is a great idea.
I love this.
great. I mean,
She's in. She said
it'll be brand new.
that's a commitment. She is in. She is clearly out of ink in that stamp. She is in. It's fantastic.
I love that. You your IMDb is chock full of goodies and lots of fun TV shows, kitties and dogs, and also some really awesome TV shows. For that first batch of your career, like before Hallmark, what was it like? I know that sounds like a very broad question, but was it like, now that you have When Calls to Heart, it's like, I got When Calls to Heart. It's great. I do this every year. It's a gig that I get to count on. For that first batch where it's kind of like, here's a few episodes here, here's a movie, here's a thing. Was it stressful? Was it like, I'm living the dream? Like, where were you kind of at as an actor and how you were feeling?
I think I just felt like I was in the machine.
Yeah.
I was just in the machine. I was just taking every audition I could get because I felt like no matter what the audition was or what the part was, I was going to learn from it. And so I was in, I think, a very kind of tenacious time of being an actor and trying to build my resume, meet as many people, directors, crew, other actors as possible, because I felt like every single time I was just learning so much and just taking it all in. And so I was just honestly trying to work as much as possible because, and on whatever came my way. That's why I don't think you see much strategy in the first half of my career in terms of what I was doing, because I was really just trying to get experience. And I felt like any experience, good or bad, was going to teach me a whole lot.
Is there one bit of advice that you got early on from somebody in the business that you've kind of kept with you or maybe passed on to other people that you've worked with?
Well, I got asked early on to do a show that was going to mean I was going to be a topless part. And my agent and a friend of mine at the time were like, absolutely not. From this point on, if you do it, every time somebody Googles your name, that will be what comes up. And I was like, yeah, that's right. I don't want that. I don't want that connection to myself. And so passed. It was a great piece of advice.
Wow. What can you tell us what show it is?
It was, shoot, I don't, I could look it up. I feel, you know what? It was a movie. It was a feature film, but it was one of these movies I felt like came out a lot in the early 2000s, where there was like a central male character and then there was just a string of girls going through it that for like no other purpose other than to be eye candy and to serve his storyline. And so, I mean, there was no deeper purpose to the nudity, that was for sure. And, but it was a big feature film. I think there was somebody of name in the main part, and it was going to be a scene with that person. And so you could see when you're young, like, oh, this might be like this, there's an allure because it's on a bigger scale than you've maybe worked before, but it's like a bigger scale and like maybe more exposure than you really want to put out there.
That's great advice.
As somebody who's been shirtless on this show, I wish someone gave me that advice for me before that happened.
Right before you did a weight loss.
I didn't know that this show goes that
It
direction.
doesn't.
Well, we had Tyler Hines on, and he took his shirt off to try to get Tyler Hines to take his shirt off. And I'm sorry. If you want to hang up right now,
it was a ratings get.
And
which we got.
Did it work?
No.
Did it
No,
work?
it didn't. Thanks for asking.
We had an ad. It was right before the break. Pascal, you have to hear this. He takes his shirt off, and he's so proud of himself. And then we go to a break, and the ad he has to read is for Noom weight loss. And he's reading it shirtless on camera. An iconic moment in Deck the Hallmark history.
One for the history
One for the
books.
history
This
books.
sounds perfection.
That's right.
Actually,
One for the
man.
history books and for Google. And for Google.
And for Google. Both, and that's what we Google. Brandon Gray, Deck the Hallmark shirtless is the thing we get most often.
I hate to say I think it would pop up.
It would probably pop up.
Yeah.
Pascal, you've been making Hallmark movies by IMDb's count for a decade now. You've had a relationship with them for a decade.
Wow.
The first one I have here is Recipe for Love. Sometimes IMDb is wrong. Is that correct?
I think that was the first one. Yeah, I didn't have a very big part. I think it was a small part, but yeah, I think that was the first one.
So
yeah.
you get and we hear this from most people we have on, but what Hallmark does is they usually get people in the door, and then they just have a don't be a terrible person rule. And if you're a great person and a good actor, they kind of work you up the ladder, and the better you are, the further they'll continue to offer you. And so this was your opportunity to do something for Hallmark. It clearly went well. Do you remember how that door opened specifically, or was it just like a regular old audition?
It was just a regular old audition. I just went in. I don't even think I knew that it was for Hallmark at the time. Like I just went in and did the audition and booked the part. And at the time I was on a different TV series. Actually, I was on a Canadian TV series called Arctic Air. And so I was doing that, and it was just, we were in the hiatus. And so I just auditioned, booked that part. And then I went back to Arctic Air. Like I went back, we did 3 seasons. So I went back to that show, and Hallmark wasn't really on my radar at that particular time.
I have to ask, what's Arctic Air? What's it about?
Yeah.
What's it about?
It was about a airline in Northwest Territories that didn't actually exist, but it was so it was a drama that was kind of like an action drama, like what the pilots have to do up there, even if it's just like, if it's an airline that is transporting passengers, it's not just transporting passengers. There's a lot of crazy flying that has to happen to get to all the rural and remote locations there. And they often are having to like land on the water or land on ice. And there's some like these crazy planes like that are tanks that they use. And so it was a TV show about that airline, and like, it was a father-daughter who ran the airline. So me, the father and me, that ran the airline. And then it was kind of like about the other characters, pilots, admin, mechanics who work at that airline, and kind of like what life is like living up in those, that environment. At the time, it was on CBC, which is the Canadian broadcaster. And so CBC really had a mandate at the time that they wanted to create content that highlighted the diverse landscape of Canadian, like Canada and Canadian culture. And so this was one of their shows that they launched to kind of highlight Northern Canada.
Wow. There you have it. Just flying planes up in the Northwestern Territories.
I love that.
Didn't see it coming. Makes sense, though.
It does make sense. It sounds like something that Liam Neeson could have been in. Maybe
Arctic Air.
Yeah, because he was in that ice truck movie.
Yeah, like somebody murdered somebody in his family, and he has to fly through Arctic Air to get him. I love it.
Yeah, he didn't get the memo to come onto our show, so he had to do that truck movie instead.
I hate that for him.
Truck movie.
It's just, I wish he had a career.
I like the
mean?
truck movie though.
Of course you do.
Liked it.
Yeah,
I love
of
Liam
course.
Neeson.
Yeah, I know.
You got a favorite Liam Neeson movie?
Rapid fire's not
Yeah,
yet.
I probably do. Yeah, I probably do. The one where he's like, I have
Taken.
a specific set of
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah.
Taken. Come on.
Taken.
That's the best.
Taken.
Is your first lead in a Hallmark movie My One and Only with Sam Page? Is that correct?
No. I did two, both with Cavan. We did Perfect Bride and then a sequel to Perfect Bride.
Okay. So you worked with Cavan first. Okay. Those aren't even in here for some reason. I knew about You Had Me at Aloha, but Perfect Bride. Here it is. 2 episodes. It's marked as a TV show. That was the thing.
Oh, yeah. No, it was a movie. And so, those were the first 2. Let me think. Did you say first Hallmark movies as a lead? Is that what you're saying? Yes. Yeah. But yeah, those were them.
Yeah. And then the next one you did was You Had Me at Aloha. So we'll get to When Calls the Heart shortly, but you and Cavan clearly don't mind each other's company. You're not bothering each other on set too much.
I love him. He's one of my best friends. I love him.
And Viv last week was talking about how you and Cavan kind of talked to him and explained how you two have made movies together and how that worked, which is really cool. How did those movies come to be for you guys? That's pretty unique, I think.
The first movie, Hallmark had been talking to us for a while about creating something or doing something with the two of us. And then the first Perfect Bride movie was directed by Martin Wood, who we had both worked with, and he directed a ton of stuff for Hallmark. And so he was like, I think this is the one. This is a good one for the two of you. So he pitched it, or I think that's how it came about. And then they all came to us and said, do you guys want to do this? We said, yes. It was a big hit. And so then Cavan and I, developed the idea for a sequel together with Rick Garman, who's the writer. And so the 3 of us kind of got together, and as is often the case, Cavan and I get together a lot, and we'll have lunch, we'll have coffee, and we kind of brainstorm ideas. We brainstormed a few, we brought them to Rick. The 3 of us fleshed them out together, and then we pitched it. We pitched it to Hallmark. They liked the idea. At the time, they were really into doing sequels. People have talked about this. There's kind of waves where they were really into doing sequels and then not so into doing sequels. This was at the peak of sequels. So they were keen to do a sequel to it. So we did that one. And then we both did a few other movies with other people, I think. But we came up with this idea for You Had Me at Aloha. And that actually came from Martin Wood, that director that I was saying. He had done a movie for Hallmark and filmed it in Fiji, and we were so jealous. We were like, what? A movie in Fiji? We want to do a movie in Fiji. So we came up with this idea for a movie, basically just as a way to shoot a movie in Fiji, which it didn't end up being Fiji, because Fiji actually had a bunch of logistical issues, just because of the time change. It's very difficult to film in Fiji. It's so remote. Having meetings and any correspondence with people who are in LA or in Vancouver or wherever is very challenging. So they were like, we don't want to do Fiji again. We went on this big, long journey of trying to find the right destination with the right kind of spots that we were going to be highlighting. And then ultimately, the pandemic hit, and it was really, that narrowed our scope quite a bit. And then I can't remember, it was a decision between 2 places, and one of them was Hawaii. And we were just like, let's do Hawaii. I think it's going to be the easiest one because it already has a whole infrastructure in place for film and TV. We figured we could probably get in there a little bit more easily than getting into other countries, because we filmed it in 2021. So it was still COVID fresh. There was still a lot of rules and regulations and protocols that we had to follow. And even to just get into Hawaii, it was tricky. To get out of Hawaii was tricky. To get back into Canada was a whole situation. And so we figured that would be maybe the easiest place that would still offer us the same locations and visual kind of spectacle that we wanted in our movie. And so that's how You Had Me at Aloha came about.
Is Hallmark the only place that you've been a part of pitching stuff to? And has it always been with Cavan, or have you kind of been developing ideas for a while and it just so happens that Hallmark's been a safe place for that?
It really it kind of fell into our lap. And Cavan and I will say, he's the person I creatively connect with the most. Like, it's just very easy. It's seamless. We've got a real shorthand together. It goes really smoothly between the two of us. And so that seemed very natural for the two of us to just pitch things together. We like working together in terms of development, but we also like working together on camera. And then they were open to it. Like, a lot of other networks are not open to taking calls from random actors who are like, hey, I've got an idea. And so we just considered it really lucky that Hallmark was open to hearing our ideas and having that conversation.
That's great.
I've got one more question, then we can talk about When Calls the Heart. You were in a movie called We Wish You a Merry Christmas with Christopher Palaha. You are it's like a cameo. You're a therapist, but it's a very important role in this movie. And we see cameos like in Hallmark. It's pretty common now for people to pop up.
Yeah.
And they usually the exception is Ben Ayers, who always is crafting a character, but everybody else pops up and isn't. But this role in this movie needed something, and you crushed it. You were really good in it. What is it like?
Oh.
What does it take to know that you might have been doing it as a favor? You might have been doing it because I'll just come do a day on this or whatever. But it seemed like it got as much of your attention, because I want to talk about Rosemary, the character of Rosemary, that is so far removed from what you are. I want to talk about that momentarily, but to have the stick-to-itiveness to go, nope, this is my time. I can go in there and just be Pascale for a day and ask the questions, or I could actually really dive in and craft something. And I'm so happy you chose the latter. Is there anything special that went into that, or am I just making it out to be more than it is?
No. So the producer on that movie was Jen Aspen. And so Jen Aspen produced You Had Me at Aloha, but she also was my best friend in You Had Me at Aloha. She's an actress who's now turned into a producer. Amazing producer, but she's a phenomenal actress. She's so hilarious, so funny. And so she phoned me up and she said, Hallmark is starting to do these cameos, because that was also kind of at the beginning stages of the cameo. And so she said, Hallmark's starting to do these cameos. I'd really like you to come on and do this. I think you could do something really fun with it. And so I said sure to her, because I really love her and I love working with her. And so then I got this, and she sent me the scene, and I was like, okay, this is a good scene. And I prepared it. Honestly, I did prepare it kind of straight. Which isn't really my natural instinct. I tend to try and always do something unpredictable. That's what I'm attempting to do, just because I think that that's interesting as an actor. And so, but I kind of just prepared it straight and wasn't sure what they were going to want me to do with it, because I also thought, this isn't my movie. I don't want to hijack this movie. I don't know. And so I showed up and I was like, well, we could do it this way, or we could do it this way. And fortunately, Jen and the director were like, oh my God, do it the other way. And so that away we went, and we were able to do something a bit funnier and quirkier.
I love that. That's great. That's great.
Let's talk When Calls the Heart.
Let's do it.
I want to talk first about how it happened, how you got Rosemary, and then I will ask a follow-up after you answer.
Great.
Tell me about how you got...
Thanks for explaining how interviews work.
Well, I didn't want you to hijack it, Dan. I didn't want you to hijack it. Give me my moment.
He's lining up question
That's right.
1 and
That's right.
2. You don't.
So when he answers, Pascale, unlike the rest of this interview, prepare for a follow-up.
That's right.
Okay. I thought it was the first question and then done.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
prepare yourself. Buckle up.
So I just auditioned for the part of Rosemary, and at that time I was still on Arctic Air. And so I would just audition for, it was supposed to just be 2 episodes, guest star appearance, and that's what I thought I was auditioning for. And I loved it, thought it was a super fun role, and showed up and did it. And then I got, it's often especially in episodic TV, they don't give you the scripts. They just give you, when you're auditioning, they just give you the sides and a little rundown of the character. So I just got the sides and I got the rundown of the character, thought it was fun, went and did the audition and booked it. And then when I got the scripts, it ends with that, what has become like this famous moment in the lore of When Calls the Heart, of Rosemary saying, "Oh, I'm not leaving, I'm staying right here." And to Elizabeth. And I phoned up my agent and I said, "So, they think I'm staying. I think they think I'm staying on the show." And he was like, "Oh, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Like, who knows, like what's going to happen." And then I shot it and that aired. And then Arctic Air got canceled.
Wow.
And it was like Arctic Air got canceled, and it was really sad. We loved making Arctic Air. I still think so fondly of that time. But so I was really sad that Arctic Air got canceled. And then literally the next day, Brad Cravoy, who's exec on When Calls the Heart, he phoned me and he said, "Oh, I want to check your availability because we want to bring you on as a regular on When Calls the Heart.
Wow.
Are you free to come on?" And I was like, "Well, my show was canceled yesterday, so yeah, I guess I'm free."
What are the odds there?
And then that,
man.
Yeah, just then off to the races. Away we went.
Randy, you have a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up. Thank you very much for that. Rosemary is a character.
What?
Which we don't see a lot on Hallmark. We don't see someone doing like a voice or like having a catchphrase. Lee! Like there's a lot... Rose,
just like that.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, we do it on the show. Don't listen to When Calls the Heart episodes.
We do it around the office,
but we do it all the time around here.
How much of Rosemary is what was on that page that you got to see when you auditioned versus what we see now? Like, how much of it is you crafting this character? And did Hallmark ever push back and go, "Just Rosemary it down a little bit"?
Yeah. It would, yeah, for sure. So the first season, I was only in 2 episodes, and there were a lot of conversations around when is she performing, and then when does that kind of mask come down and she's more vulnerable, I guess. And so there were a lot of conversations about that in that first season. I think it was in season 2 when you really saw more of her playfulness, and it started kind of taking shape. But I feel like if you watch if you're watching the series and you get to season 3, you will see a lot of things that then become kind of cornerstones of the series really take shape in season 3. And not just for my character, although yes, definitely for Rosemary, but also just in terms of the look of the show, in terms of the tone of the show, in terms of the characters. A lot of stuff solidified in season 3 and then evolved from there, but within that framework. I think season 1 and 2 almost are standalones. Like people love them because they're, almost like origin story of Hope Valley, but they really tonally have a very different thing going on than season 3 and onwards.
Even from each other, those two seasons have a different tonally. Yes,
totally.
Yes,
totally,
yeah, for sure. So Rosemary gets to do a lot of things in this show that I think, because the structure of When Calls the Heart is, we're all here, life's moving forward. What's kind of the thing that's happening this week? We're planning a birthday party, or Abigail's Cafe's in trouble. Like that's kind of like, it's low stakes on purpose because you're there for the characters. It's a comfort food situation. But Rosemary, over the years, and Lee, to some extent, actually, yes, Lee as well, have become like what I felt like, and don't take this for what it is. It's what I felt like they started to do with Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory, which is, let's find a situation. We know these 2 actors who Lee is like structured and Mr. Businessman and loves Rosemary. Rosemary's flair for the dramatic, always has the big idea, always is like up for an adventure. Let's find a situation that lends itself to what Lee and Rosemary do best. And so we have some years where it's like she's making dresses, or she's always got her hand doing something. And then And then I know, no, this is all good. This is
Yeah. Few years she's making dresses. Yeah.
no,
Okay.
but like, like just instances where it's like, what would
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm totally
what
with
would
you.
Rosemary do or promise that would drive Lee batty? Or what would Lee do that and not think to like even communicate with his wife, which was last week's episode where it's like, Lee, bro, you forgot a breakfast and a lunch. That's on you. You know what I mean? Like, so they do this with these characters.
Do you guys watch every episode? Like, can I ask you?
We've seen
every
every episode. Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
We've seen every episode, Pascale. We're regular. Okay. We're not hardies. We're regular watchers. Don't listen. I'm pretty hard on the show typically.
On When Calls the Heart.
Okay.
So I this is something I did want to touch on. I'm so curious about it that you've chosen to invest so much time and energy on something that maybe you don't.
So
love.
I love reviewing it. So like it's never personal. Like it's never like seeing you. I saw you first in When Calls the Heart, maybe one other movie before then. I've never seen Perfect Bride. Then seeing you and You Had Me at Aloha, and I was like, oh my gosh, she is such an actor because you have these two things. And the premise of our show was never to watch When Calls the Heart. It was Brand loves Christmas movies. I minored in film and know enough to sound smarter than I actually am. And we're going to watch these and I don't like them and he likes them. That was the basis for the show.
Yeah,
people clamored for us to watch it. And those episodes, people tune in. They're like, hey, what are these guys? And we bring Jacqueline Collier in as our third host for that show. And she's wonderful. And she's a huge fan of yours. I'm sure she's going to freak out when she hears that you're on the show. And so we've watched them all and you've not always like, there's been times like the show ebbs and flows, which actually is what I was going to get to, which is you get a pretty dramatic plot line in this show in season 9 or 10. I don't remember which, where you and Lee are struggling to have a child and you want a child desperately. And this for like, you are so good. Like, so, and I this is not like, I'm being honest. Like sometimes you feel like you're making this show and you know that When Calls the Heart is very low stakes. And so there's not a lot of reason to rock the boat. Your choices typically rock the boat in the best way. And you have this, you've been asked to want to build a theater in town, to build dresses, to run a newspaper, to have 3 phones, blah, 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 like the full song and dance. And yet you pivot and you pull off this unbelievable performance where you have to dig deep. Like you have to go somewhere and like really bare your soul on camera in a show that is, first 2 seasons aside, which were, death of a lot of minors, really serious. But since then, it's a show that doesn't really hit notes that deep and that true on purpose. And so this is a long way of saying.
He's going to get there.
Here it
comes.
Jason Bateman on Smartlist. You get it.
I just hope there's no follow-up.
Yeah,
no, I want to allow it.
So my question
I think
is
the follow-up's in here somewhere as well.
Did the producers of this show... Really, the short version is how much do you get to have a say in that? Do the producers of the show go, man, Pascale really, she can foul pole to foul pole, she can do this. So let's continue to shift and swing Rosemary as our more dramatic character. Or is it you going, hey, I did the theater thing, I did the dresses thing, I was in love with Jack when I came to town. Let me have something. Let Lee and I have something that is more substantial. Who is doing that? Who's like, are you having a say, or is this just you're getting your script and going, oh, okay, got to dig deep this year?
Yeah, more that.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said about Rosemary, and so like at the beginning of every season, when the writer's room forms, they will, whoever our showrunner is at the time, and after 11 years, I mean, we've had a number of showrunners. Usually you sit down with them and they're like, okay, like, do you have any ideas, or like, where do you see Rosemary going this season? Or like, let's talk about what we see going on. And I have always said right from the beginning, I think the strength of this character is that while comedic and larger than life, a lot of the time, the best thing to do for a character like that is to give her moments, and it doesn't have to be prominent, but give her moments where the shoe drops kind of, and there is that more dramatic, more vulnerable moment, and that's interesting as an actor, but more importantly, it's interesting as an audience member to watch, to see a character who does have great variation, and so I've always said that. So not specifically any direct storylines. I've just said that that's what intrigues me about this character, and that's what excites me. And so fortunately, we've had amazing showrunners, and they have taken that and given me some really cool moments that challenged me as an actor and challenged my concept of this character, and allowed us to show many different facets so that she wasn't just one dimensional.
You got any more long boys? Or
I have so many. This is so fascinating to me. It really is. I do, but I'm not gonna.
I'll give you one more.
Do you have any more When Calls the Heart?
I'm okay.
Okay. Your character shows up and is pining for Jack Thornton, and then falls in love with Lee Coulter. And there is a point late in the season, and I was trying to remember this. I've not watched this episode in years, but Lee is sitting with Rosemary and says that he has bought this thing and is building you a stage, right? Like is building you like a theater. Okay. So that Rosemary seems like we don't hear about theater for a long time. All of a sudden it's like telephone newspaper, and it's like Rosemary's a journalist who's getting the scoop and making the calls, and it's like, but she loves the theater. Why? What's wrong with her doing that? And then now it's gotten to a point where you mentioned the last episode, Rosemary does, we could put a stage in the Queen of Hearts. Do you know what happened to that theater? What happened to the one that Lee built her all the way back when? Because it's driving me nuts.
He never built me a theater. He never built me a theater.
Okay, good.
He just promised to build me a theater, and then he never did.
Oh, another broken promise by Lee, which brings me to this point.
Yes.
Lee's the worst.
He is.
Lee's the worst. Listen, you let him off the hook last week.
No kidding.
That guy goes, I missed breakfast. I missed lunch. I know how to fix this. Let's buy another company. And
I know. It was a real curve.
Messed up, man.
One not many men could pull off, but he's pretty charming.
Cavan's great, but
charming.
he did convince Rosemary, who like rightfully calls him on the carpet for missing a breakfast and a lunch in the same day, is somehow then conversely, she is convinced that acquiring another business will give them more time together.
Don't believe him, Rosemary. Don't believe him.
It's not how that works. It's not how that works. It couldn't be.
I'll talk to him. I'll talk to Lee. We
would love to have Cavan on the show.
No, I'll talk to Lee.
You'll talk to Lee. You'll
talk
give
to
Lee
Lee
a call. The character.
He's still real to me.
Cavan stays in Lee.
We've got about 5 phones in our office at When Calls the Heart. So try any of them. You're bound to get
that's
them.
what made me think of the Sheldon thing. It's like these characters know how to play up a comedy bit.
Yeah.
You guys are oil and water. The comedy is very Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. It's a great vibe. And so When Calls the Heart, everywhere else is like, we'll do Lucas and Nathan, and then we'll do Lucas, and then Nathan, and then who knows? But with you guys, it's very much like we're shenanigans. We have these two love to play. We're going to give them shenanigans. And I knew it. I knew talking to you for an hour that you weren't going into the office going, I need more shenanigans. I knew you weren't. That is what.
No, I'm not saying that. But I will say, obviously some storylines seem obvious that there are shenanigans. Cavan and I will sometimes just come up with different ideas of different ways we can block a scene or, modify a couple lines to be a little bit more bantery or comedic. We really love trying to find where the comedy lives with the two of them. So I think maybe the writers are just like, okay, well, they're going to do it anyway. So let's just write more of it in.
I love it.
I'll end When Calls the Heart with this. We're in our 11th season now, a couple of episodes in.
We're ending it here right now.
I'm
no
done.
follow-ups.
I'm done.
We're ending it.
I'm done. You can do what you want to.
The finale.
You've exhausted me. We're in our 11th season, couple episodes in now. without giving too much away about what your and Lee's arc is in this season, is there anything that you're especially excited about? Maybe about where Rosemary is heading, or maybe just to see fans' reactions about
and is
something.
it a knife fight in the alley with the other newspaper? Is it that?
Should be.
If it's that, let us know.
It is. It is. Me and Randall Rockwell. Watch
That's right.
out.
Yeah, it's gonna get ugly.
The thing that I'm most excited about for people to watch, and for myself to watch as well, is all the stuff with Rosemary and Bill. I think it's just unexpected. I think we've never seen the two of them, even though we've been on the same show for 10 seasons. We haven't really had much to do with one another, and so it was really fun, and it's a fun dynamic for people to watch. I've watched up to episode 3 or 4 now, and it's fun. It's really fun to see it evolve, this dynamic between Bill and Rosemary trying to solve this mystery.
I do
murder.
love
Or not murder, like
the
attempted.
Bill Avery, like on the case. She said murder. She
Those
slipped up.
Carrie,
We
yeah,
do
it's
have it.
happening.
That's right. It's
What
a murder.
episode is the murder?
There's a
No, I
murder
know.
coming.
The murder's-
I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want to.
Pascale Hutton just
Send
said that
Hardy down a
Nathan
rabbit
tried to
hole.
murder Lucas.
Lucas,
That is what just
coming out.
happened on
You
this
got the
show.
scoop.
Pascale,
You got the scoop.
Rosemary confirms.
That's tough.
Nathan Grant in his Mountie.
You're getting me into a world of
Yeah.
trouble. A world
In
of
his
trouble.
Mountie surge, just
Pat-
one to the chest.
I
just a bad shot.
I
Unfortunately.
lied. I have one more. Pascal, is this the season where Elizabeth and Gowan finally end up together? I think the tension's there. It is clear.
Team Gowan over here.
This
That's not what we know that Gowan is meant to be with Abigail.
I don't think. Listen, I don't think that. I respect the opinion that maybe could have been a possibility.
Yes.
But we have to talk about what we see on the screen. And what we see on the screen is Elizabeth and Gowan. The sparks are flying.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
just saying, I know the people.
But they're both talking about Abigail. He made a special trek to go see Abigail. I think that's on. That's happening, whether it's on screen.
I'm
or
not opposed to a throuple.
really-
I think everything I'm fine either way. However it ends up.
I do have one question that is pertinent. We talk about it every week, but I'm going to get your answer off air if that's
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Because I know that you can't answer
What
it
a way
on
to
air.
do this for the people that are listening.
Just
That's so interesting.
Just stick around if you could for 30 seconds because I'm fascinated to know your take on this, but I don't want to do it and keep it in the broadcast.
It's time for the rapid
That's
fire.
right. But Nathan did shoot Lucas, and we did get that. That's very good. We got that. That's great. Awesome.
It's time for rapid fire. It's where we each get to ask you 3 questions about anything, and you have to answer it quickly or not. It's really up to you. It's your life.
Yeah. You've been on over 100 episodes of When Calls the Heart. How many days, in your estimation, has the entire cast been there?
Well, 100 episodes. I have no idea how many days.
Like
we worked,
if it's
even.
8 to 10 days an episode, is that about right?
Well, we block shoot, so it's 13 days for 2
Okay,
episodes.
so 6.5. So 700 days. 700 days. How many is the entire cast? Everybody there.
Wow.
I'd say maybe 50 over the
Yes.
10 years. I'd say 50 to 75.
All right. 8
Yeah.
to 10%. That sounds about
You
that's higher than I
mentioned
thought.
that Arctic Air got canceled, and then you got a call from Brad. Did Brad pay them to cancel the show?
You know what? I wouldn't put it past him. He's such a businessman. I've wondered it myself. I don't know the truth to it, but it has crossed
Suspicious
my mind.
timing. We can at least say that. Suspicious timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
In your mind, how many seasons should there be of When Calls the Heart?
Oh my gosh, you know what? This is Kevin's favorite question. He's been asking it me for years, literally
I love
years,
it.
every
I
season.
love it.
How many should we go for? What do you think we can go for? What do you think is realistic? I always said 12. I always said, I think we've got 12 seasons in us. And now that we're so close to 12, and I'm like crossing my fingers, like I think I'm hoping like 12 will happen. Now I'm sort of like, oh, without getting greedy, I feel like easily 15.
Well, yeah, we could go for
I think
15, of course.
I think easily we could do 15. And like some people are even like 15, why not go for 20? But I feel like that's a bit greedy. So I'm like, I'll start by revising my estimation to 15.
I love it.
You have to choose between sour.
I thought they were done. I thought it was 3
No,
rapid
we
fire.
were
We're still going.
3 and 3.
This is very serious.
Yes.
This-
Sorry.
Oh, okay,
You can,
6.
she's
Okay,
nervous.
got it.
I
This
think
is
she wants to
crunch time.
leave. This hurts. If you have to choose between sour gummies and non-sour gummies, which gummies are you choosing?
It's the worst. I'm sorry. It should have been 3.
It's a good question.
Non-sour.
Okay.
That's interesting.
You're in Vancouver, yes. All right.
Yeah.
Where are you going to eat if you get one meal, birthday dinner? Where are you going to eat?
Oh, I'm gonna say Joe Forte's. It's downtown, and I go there every year with Kevin for my birthday and for his birthday. We take each other out for our
That's
birthdays,
awesome.
and we always go to Joe Forte's.
I love it.
What are your thoughts on those shoes where all the toes have an individual, like
No.
Right?
No.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah,
No.
she gets it.
you got it.
Yeah.
I don't. Who's saying yes? Who's saying yes? Have you asked other
People that wear
No
them
one's saying
apparently
yes.
do, and then I feel bad. I don't want to go up and be like, "What's up with you?" Like, I'll judge you
Yeah,
in my head.
Socks though. What do you think about the socks with all the
Oh,
individual?
I
that's
don't like.
tough, too.
It's
That's
too
tough, too.
It's too
Yeah.
enclosed. I don't like that.
Yeah, not good. It's not
Pascale, the goal of the podcast and our podcast network is to bring joy, and we do that with every interviewee by asking if there is a specific charity that you work with or would like to promote here. Deck the Hallmark is going to give $100, and we would encourage everyone else, if they so feel the need to do so, to join us in donating. Is there a charity that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, this might not be a surprise after my cameo visitor earlier in this interview, but I would say SPCA is phenomenal, and it would be great if people could
What a
donate
great
to
charity.
SPCA.
I have 3 rescue dogs. They are family. I love them dearly. So that is an awesome charity. We would love to donate to the SPCA. Pascale, thank you so much for joining us, giving of your time and being so candid and so great. And now a member of the 1 Hour Club,
1 Hour Club.
which doesn't happen often around here. So
Congratulations.
that's very, very impressive.
Does it not?
No. Means we had a good time. I mean, we had a
Oh.
good time.
Yes.
So much to talk
That's right.
about.
Yeah. No kidding.
Season 11, When Comes the Heart, going on right now. Sunday nights is when each episode premieres. Pascale, you're the best. And until next time, may we be the first to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Deck the Hallmark's The Bramble Jam podcast is produced by Aaron Shea. For more information on Deck the Hallmark, you can go to deckthehallmark.com. For more information on the Deck the Hallmark family, you can go to bramblejamplus.com. Deck the Hallmark is presented by Philo TV. For a free trial of Philo, go to philo.tv/DTH.